Yes, Jermaine. Bless.
Bless. Big up, bro. Big up for joining us on the channel today. Much appreciated to have you here.
Bro, I owe you an apology. We've been trying to hook up for some time now. So, like how we never got to meet up on the weekend, I thought, let me just catch you tonight. I just come from an award ceremony, as I was explaining to you before.
Yes.
I thought, you know what? Why waste this tux? Have the meeting now. You know
You're done though. Would you like to say what the meeting, not the meeting, the award show was about? Or are we keeping that off here?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a problem. I mean, not everybody knows. Only those who are also in the financial sector know that I'm actually in the financial sector. Other people might just know me from years and years of living in London, living in South London. So they know me, they know my family, they know, you know, whoever.
Yeah.
You know, especially in the Afro-Caribbean community in London, you know how it goes. Everybody kind of knows everybody.
Yeah, of course.
Especially after you've been here a couple of decades. And I'm not 20 years old. You see me?
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been there a while still.
We've been here a while.
Yeah, so in relation to the award ceremony, so I do a lot of work in the mental health first aid capacity in the financial sector. Yeah. So yeah, that's quite a big deal as well. So I do other things within the financial sector, and then from there, I found that I found my place in dealing with the mental health side of things because I took a strong interest in it. And then I just started researching as people do. And I just went on a few courses in regards to this. And then all of a sudden I've got qualifications for this. And I'm now actually working in that capacity for one of the biggest firms in the world, as you know. So yeah, that was the general trajectory of it. Reason why I kind of wanted to pick up with you is because I've been seeing what you're doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah?
Yes, I have. And so, you know, it's nice to kind of see you in that window as well, where you kind of advising others into it, because we know that, you know, there's a lot of cowboys out here for one, a lot of chances, and, you know, someone who's just generally offering, you know, sound facts. I wouldn't even say advice, because I know you're not actually a financial advisor,
which are often
I've regulated your thing, so you're not actually advising. I know you kind of keep it twice removed.
Oh, definitely. Most definitely, bro.
Yeah, and just give people sound facts, and then they can kind of make that decision for themselves. And it's very important that you do that as well, which draws back to the mental health side of things. So people might be thinking, well, where does mental health come into this capacity? Well, think about it. Any negative coping mechanism is probably due to mental health. And let me explain why. Because when people, especially in the Black community as well, they run away anytime you hear anything about mental health. They think section, they think the worst case scenario. They think it's nothing to do with them. Wrong. Because, you know, physical health is something to do with everybody.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Everybody's got something to do. You're either too skinny, too fat, you know, overweight or underweight. You know, you don't like this part of your body, that part of your body, whatever, you know, and you spend your life ruminating over these things. But, you know, that's physical health. So people know that it's physical health, and you have to tap into that, keep your wellness, good food, etc. Food and stuff for life, you know, and all of that good stuff. People, you don't have to really sell that to somebody. They know, everybody knows that they have to work on their own mental health. Excuse me, their own physical health.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to point out here is then, well, where does the mental health come into this? Because if you've got physical health and you've got mental health, so just to break it down, physical health is, yes, of course, your physical body. So everything that is in the physical realm. Yeah. And then mental health is what's going on in the mind, you know, which is the most active muscle in the body. Yeah. Because the muscle doesn't stop, brethren. Exactly. When you're awake, it's active. When you're sleeping, it's overactive.
Conscious, so, you know, there's a lot of unconscious. Yeah.
There we go. Conscious or unconscious. Yeah, that brain, while you're alive, the brain is active. The brain, you know,
or I should say conscious or subconscious. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all free, because that's a.
Oh yeah, you know, exactly.
Yeah, all three. Yeah, that's a trimester of things, really. When you've got conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. But I'm not even trying to get down that road. I'm just kind of gonna keep this one more basic, and then we can kind of move on, because you know everybody. You know, with our community, we'll often jump onto things. You know what I mean, without kind of cross-referencing as well. So there's a lot of things I want to tackle in regards to that. Yeah. But you know, tonight is just kind of highlighting, you know, that mental health should be kind of treated like physical health. You know, when you talk about physical health, you're dealing with your physical. When you're talking about mental health, you're dealing with your mental. So when people say, "Oh, you should deal with your mental health," people say, "Oh, I ain't got mental health." Yeah. What do you mean you don't have mental health? It's like saying, "Oh, raw, you should go for a run." You know, "Oh, I ain't got physical health." You wouldn't. Who wouldn't benefit from a run if you're able to do so? You know, exactly. These sort of things, yeah. So people really try to run away from it, and people don't like to talk about, you know, managing their mental health. And in turn, we start to advertise a lot of negative coping mechanisms, because you know people are not tapped into, you know, regulating and balancing out their own mental health. So they jump into negative coping mechanisms to cope with what's going on upstairs. I remember when we was talking about this before live, and I kind of mentioned to you one particular coping mechanism in the, especially in the communal fight, excuse me, especially in the consumer financial arena. Yeah. So, you know, I kind of see that when I kind of look on the analytics of it all and see where these pockets are going. So, for an example, if you're somebody who's struggling with finances and, you know, it's becoming overbearing, you know, you're not tapped into, you know, balancing out your mental health with this, and facts are facts, you're struggling with finances. Yeah. All right, so you're struggling with finances now, and what you find is that a lot of people who are struggling with finances tend to wipe it under the carpet. So that's their negative coping mechanism, where they wipe it under the carpet, like set them bills are gonna go away.
Yeah, I've done that myself many a times in the past.
Yeah, everybody's done it at some tier. Everybody has done it. We all, you know, we'll leave that till, we'll leave that till, we'll leave that till. And then it comes on top, and it's like, you know.
One thing I was very guilty of, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I was very guilty of this. Like you're saying, money problems, bills coming through the door. Rather, I just stopped opening my mail, because my attitude was, whatever they're writing me for, I can't help them with. So why even bother opening it? And like you're saying, what I was doing was sweeping it under the carpet and making matters worse. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, obviously I snapped out of that. But yeah, I've been at that stage.
Yeah, I had a particular brethren I remember his mentality back in the day was, well, the worst thing they can do is mess up your credit, but they can't take your life. And I said, yeah, you're absolutely right there. And you're nothing love money still, you know. Then I understand where he's coming from there. However, you have to be, as an adult and as a man, and you have to be, you know, money minded. You have to be business minded. You have to be prudent with how you're going to maneuver in your own financial arena. And wiping things out of the carpet like that, which is just going to go ahead and ruin your credit, you're going to find when you come out of that, you can't even come out of that because your credit's just ruined for 6 odd years because of the time when you decided to wipe things under the carpet and, it just came on top for you. And that's a lack of financial education as well for a lot of us. That happens. Lack of financial education. We didn't have a silver spoon start. And not many people do have a silver spoon start. But the start that a lot of people do have is at least a hereditary one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As much as you don't live and love for it, that eventually money's going to come down to you. And you have to be prepared and balanced for that. A lot of people in our particular community don't have that. Yeah. They ain't nothing coming. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. A lot of people's dads ain't even got wheels and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's the fact of it. That's true.
Yeah, so nothing ain't coming. So back to the negative coping mechanisms. So, you've like back to my brethren who I was talking about. So he finds himself in financial ruin after a while because, he's kind of adopted that mentality. Whereas, he's not going to stress about the bills that he owes. He's just going to just let it ride out and not let it stress him. And I understand the concept of not letting it stress you because, that same stress balance. But it's a negative coping mechanism because not letting it stress you, you're not consolidating your funds and paying it slowly or doing something. You're wiping it under the carpet. And I think is the reason why you said you're wiping it under the carpet as well is because you're not fully accepting the consequence of what's taking place. Chat, it doesn't matter. But really deep down, when you deep it, it does matter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you do want to acquire a property at some stage. Do you know what I mean? And if you want to acquire a property in this country, chances are you're going to need credit for that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Unless you can cover that. Whereas perhaps if you can cover it like that, maybe we don't need to have this particular conversation. If you can cover it like that. But that's quite rare. That's quite rare. Yeah. People ain't just sitting on 500,000.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? A lot of people I grew up around, and I'm not a young boy anymore. They've never had, even $250,000 in their position ever.
Yeah.
Ever. So, to even think of those money, they can't even fathom, those sort of numbers and stuff like that. So you do get a lot of, again, negative coping mechanisms. Wiping things under the carpet. A whole scenario, better must come.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the case, especially if you are using these same negative coping mechanisms. So let's even make it more basic. You might have, because I was talking about a brethren, take it to a sister. I've got one particular client, and her problem was that she was just having trouble just getting on top of her finances, and it was stressing her out. And the only way to de-stress was to go online and buy clothes.
Retail therapy.
Now imagine, a key problem is the finance, but retail therapy is what she's using, to suppress, the thoughts of what's really happening.
Yeah.
Negative coping mechanism again. If I was to talk about drugs, like, someone's stressed and then just using drugs to kind of run away from the stresses, everybody would understand that. Do you know what I mean? Because it's all advertised, drugs. Do you know what I mean?
Go talk to Frank.
Yeah, and the drugs is a fucked up thing. Yes.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't cost as much as some of these handbags and clothes and shoes and whatever else. That's a drug in itself, especially if you can't afford it.
Exactly.
And if you're running yourself into the ground trying to keep up with the who did they say keep up with the
Joneses.
The Joneses. There we go. Yeah, trying to keep up with the Joneses, but yet you're putting yourself in this financial ruin. And then when, the red letters come on top, you're shoving them under the carpet and buying yourself a handbag to forget all about it.
Yeah.
Negative coping mechanism. So people will be listening to me and say, well, who does that? Bruv, trust me, a lot of people do this. We have a tough. I had to do some analytics on savings accounts for people for the advertisement side of things, right? Just so that we could find out exactly who we're piecing. And lo and behold, as far as savings accounts go, so not current accounts, savings accounts, where people open up a particular savings account for a higher yield and all of that. The amount of black males under 50 with a savings account is extremely rare.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Bro, that surprises me, but it don't surprise me. It's a sad statistic still.
Yeah, I mean, black females are more than black males. They're nowhere near white women,
right?
In regards to the saving. So, in a nutshell, we save less. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we had less in the first place, but we don't have hereditary wealth. Do you know what I mean? We don't have hereditary wealth, and to be honest with you, with most families, when they have any sort of hereditary wealth, crabs in a barrel, we bicker over it when dearly beloveds pass away. So there's no hereditary wealth there. If you're not managing that properly between you, it's just it's a crabs in the barrel scenario. Right. You know what I mean? So even all that Windrush money, will come and we've got work for you. You can buy a house and all of that. All of them houses these Caribbean people bought, at the time, for less than £100,000, which are millions of pounds now. When the hereditary pass, that just gets eaten away. I've seen enough cases of this, so many cases. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, so the wealth is not trickling. And, then, we could go into talking about that. The wealth doesn't stay within our community anyway, because we don't have any forum for it to kind of just circle back to you from the community. You know what I mean? There's not that. That's why I respect like what what's that guy from So Solid? Swiss. Okay. Yeah, I like what he was doing with the Black Pound Day thing, because I get the idea. Yeah, I get the idea, because you have to start the spin for it to continue to spin, you have to start the spin. And a lot of that we're not doing. I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of areas and a lot of people in areas, they don't have the capacity to do that. They can't say that, all right, boom. Like, I know it's like Black Pound Day, but for example, if it was Black Pound Month, you could hardly survive, because we just are not selling the resources that we need. I mean, could we do a Chinese pound month where everything we buy is Chinese? Everything we need that we buy is Chinese? Probably. We could do it. But a black one, maybe not. For the month, we would have to go out and get something elsewhere. I might be wrong. But that's the way I see it at the moment. And I hope I am wrong, and we'll start to see that change. But we do need to kind of progress business-wise. And I think the only way to do that is to be more fiscal about your saving and your finance and your credit, and not to be in denial about all of these things, and not to wipe these things under the carpet with negative coping mechanisms. Yeah. Just also to stop pretending. People spend too much money pretending. You know what I mean? Now, there's a time and place for everything, because sometimes you have to kind of glamour up. I mean, look at me now in my tuxedo. you know, because I've just come from an awards ceremony, you know, that's the trajectory I'm trying to, it's my brand. I get that. But, man, you just feel no way out, man. Because some people are, you know, spending big money to dress up nice at nightclub and you know, do what comes with that, which is also more money and more expense. Do you know what I mean? Skirt and whatnot, that's even more expense again still. Do you know what I mean? You know, we've come to ages now where we've seen a lot of people come through with a lot of money and then mismanage that, and nothing comes of it. And you know, there's so much money that's kind of passed through our community, even just for our generation. You know what I mean? And we don't still have much to show for it. So we do need to start changing the attitude. You know, I'm not saying rule ourselves out, but I think what does take priority is to say, okay, you know, we've had our fuck up, but tell the youngest then this. We shouldn't really be on that same hype from, you know, 15, 20 years ago. Most definitely not. That is not progress at all. And, you know, there was this baller mentality.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of baller mentality when you didn't even own your house was a little bit backwards to me. Yeah. It's nice to have fun. I'm not trying to take away your fun, and I'm not trying to push just boredom into your life. I know having fun sometimes, you know, you might, that's the whole point of having, you know, fun, having a night out, whatever, you know, you kind of let your hair down and don't think about your stresses for a while. But if that is your continuation pool, you know, and you don't, you know, kind of come out of that trance and say, all right, it's time to kind of deal with reality and focus, you know, have your plan, you know, have your daily bullet points and how you're going to get to that next level. If you're not doing these things, you are wiping it under the carpet, and only you can decide that you're doing that. It's easy to pretend to everybody else except yourself. So what are you telling yourself? That's what you need to kind of, you know, talk to yourself. Yeah. Because yourself will actually give you good advice if you allow yourself. Don't be in denial with yourself. Because people, when they talk to themselves, they're trying to convince themselves that there's something else that they're not. You know, these people who were in the mirror and they're trying to convince themselves that there's something. No, you are who you are. And that's great too. Do you know what I mean? That is great as well. Do you know what I mean? You ain't got to spend all this money to try and be someone else who you're never going to be.
Yeah. I feel some people need to hit breaking point for change to happen sometimes. They will remain on this path until, do you know what I mean? Something happens where it's like, wow, I cannot keep this up no more. I have to change, whether they want to or not.
Yeah, there is that.
Unless they got guidance from someone who's gonna step in and be like, bro, the way you move, or sis, the way you're moving is wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's a get your priorities right. If they don't have that, they can remain on this path until, they've got no choice but to change.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people, you know, black men, you know, in their 30s and plus, who are homeless on the streets. You know, some of them have gone to that extreme mental disorder, you know, where they kind of really couldn't cope with it. Maybe drugs pushed the interval, and, you know, now they're just on the streets, and, you know, people are calling them tramps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And these are people, you know, these are people that we kind of grew up with and, you know, see around from when we was young and stuff like that. And it's sad to see, because I know these people must have had money around them one time, but there just wasn't that that plan then in regards to what to do, that steady plan. Yeah, too much people ball out and fall off, and some you can't save everybody, but what you can do is not repeat that for those who are coming up, and say that, look, no, that's not reality. What you're seeing on the telly, look out your window, that's reality. So you have to think, do you want to be, and it's the old stereotypes. Do you want to be the guy who is known and he's got his big rope chain? Do you know what I mean? And he gets into spots for free and whatever else. Or do you want the guy who's not really too in at that height, but he does have his house and his car is paid for, and he can take his family on holiday every year? It's an easy one. Who would not pick one particular side? But then when you look at it, everybody kind of leans that way. You know what I mean? I wouldn't dream of wearing a rope chain and I don't have a key to a house. That just seems insane to me. Do you know what I mean? You don't want a key to open and close a door, but you want a chain to your neck. Deep it. Yeah. So it's, so it's just things like that. And so this is why I kind of, started to study, mental health and become, this mental health first aid practitioner, because, I see a lot of it in my own community that needs attention. And let's not beat around the bush. The fact that I do things like this in a financial capacity, that's where the money is. It's the bread and butter, because these people have got the money to kind of deal with their things. But what it's kind of made me aware of is that actually, even though I'm dealing with people in the financial arena and they've got their own series of problems, like gambling is a clear one. And that's what I kind of just want to round up with, because it kind of affects everyone, because I can see it on both tiers. For those who do have a bit of wealth and those that don't have a lot of wealth, it's still the same illness.
Yeah.
Gambling is when you take a risk with what you can't afford to risk. That's gambling at the end of the day. And if you kind of find yourself in a rut where every minute you're thinking, oh, this one is going to be the one, and you kind of losing out, and that is not it. And it wasn't it from the moment you started taking that risk that you can't take. Because if you're starting to take the risk that you can't take, that kind of extreme gambling, that is a problem. And it's actually a negative coping mechanism, because you lost money. You feel the only way forward is to gamble again and see if you can make that back. You're keeping yourself in that same loop again. And, it's twofold, because the guys in online selling shares, stock market, corporate hedge funds, securities, all of these sectors where people may decide to, go out of a limb and feel like that they can make their next big win, that avenue. But when you are going out a limb trying to make that next big win, you're not thinking of the both sides of the coin. Yeah, could be fantastic, but if you lose, can you afford that loss? If you can afford the loss, fine. But once you start taking risks where you cannot afford the loss, that's where you're kind of finding yourself back again into that realm of the negative coping mechanism. And you might say this, oh, well, it's just this one, and that could make it for me. Could fuck it up for you as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, sometimes you have to kind of take a leap, take a risk in life. I get that. Even though I'm not really over promoting gambling, but it, when you're dealing with finance and investment, that is a gamble. Yeah. But what you should do is invest what you can afford to invest in.
Yeah.
Invest in what you can. You don't want to lose nothing. We get that. But if you lose this amount, are you going to fall on your face? Therefore, if losing that amount, you fall on your face, is it worth investing it? A lot of people would just look at this and say, he's chatting shit because I did that. Do you know what I mean? I took a leap. It was a good thing, and I took a leap, and look at me now. Brilliant. Do you know what I mean? I mean, now I take that weir from you. That's brilliant. However, say if it never work out, so
yeah,
how would you be looking now? Do you know what I mean? So, there's no point kind of giving off that advice, and then, the next man who says, "Oh, bro, I saw you online, and I thought, let me try that as well." And it's my last 12 grand, and I just put it all in, and thinking I'm gonna make big bucks, and now I ain't even got the 12 grand now. I ain't even got nothing, not at all. You know what I mean?
But this is it with the stock market. The bottom line is no risk, no reward. So there's always that element. And if you're not doing no due diligence at all, someone just gave you a tip, or you've been hearing people making money off Tesla or Apple or whatever the stock is, and you're not doing no due diligence, bottom line is you're gambling. But you can really limit that, how much risk there is, by putting in the due diligence and reading things from balance sheets, reading charts. There's loads of things you can do. But what I'm really interested in, and I feel others would be interested in, I know your work is very sensitive, so I don't want to speak on exact situations, like talking no one's business, but I imagine you'd have people in the stock market, like investors or traders, coming to you, and maybe they have put in more than they should have and they've lost. And I'd like to know, what are the negative sides? Like, what are their negative coping mechanisms? I know retail therapy is one of them. I've been guilty of that myself, when you've just lost some and you just think, do you know what? You just think buying whatever you're thinking of might make you feel better. But as you said, it's a temporary fix and the problem's still there. But on that institutional scale, what are the effects of some of these people?
And funnily enough, it'd be more the retail therapy aspect more so than the stocks and shares aspect and the taking a pose, because when it comes to that sort of thing, they sort of know what they're doing, and they've got people around them. It's when you kind of take away yourself from the people that are around you and start to go on your own little private journey. That's when the money starts to dry up, and greed plays a part. You might say, well, greed, well, they're trying to hustle, they're trying to make it.
Yeah.
But we got to call a spade a spade. Do you know what I mean? And with that same stability there, you thought, you know what, let me see if I can take a leap with this. But again, you have to really consider, what is the negative aspect of that leap if it doesn't work out? And can you hold that? Can you manage that? Can you handle that? Do you know what I mean? And then, like I said, going back to the retail therapy, sometimes they take these risks and it doesn't work out for them. So they kind of, again, wipe it under the carpet, where, they're not telling, people who they share their finances with what's going on. Do you know what I mean? And they're dressing it up by buying stuff, new car, new telly, especially people that know that, it's going to come on top soon, but their credit's good right now. So they've gone into that negative. Remember what I mentioned to you earlier? They think, well, what's the worst they can do? They just take it all back, take my credit. and then you're just going to fall in his face. And it didn't really have to be like that, but because your mind wasn't in the right place of balance, and say that, all right, let's just draw back, let's be positive about this and see how we can kind of move forward. That's what they have, because they're not being honest with themselves about this. And that's where the mental health side kind of comes in. Be honest with yourselves, particularly with your finances. If you're not rich, you're not rich. Yeah. Not being rich, not being rich is not a failure.
Definitely not.
Yeah. Because you're not rich doesn't mean you're a failure. Do you have stability? Can you afford the roof over your head, whether it's mortgage or tenant? Can you afford that? Because I mean, nobody knows their minute or their hour anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got to formulate that balance, and just just be able to deal with your kin, and don't lie to yourself is the main thing. I guess I could just really push here when you're talking about the negative coping mechanisms, because if you didn't lie to yourself, there's less likely a chance that you're going to have any of these kind of negative coping mechanisms, which, like you said, you was honest yourself earlier. You said that, you deal with it as well. And we all do. Do you know what I mean?
I'm in a complete different place now. So I've learned to manage those things, but I imagine there's a lot of people who are there that could benefit from this. But what I'd really like to know, sorry to cut you, was
no, go ahead. For sure.
As you said, like basically burying your head in the sand seems to be the biggest negative coping mechanism people resort to when things are going bad, whether it's just because lack of financial education or in the stock market. But
for sure.
Again, it's sensitive. If you can't answer, that's cool, and I don't want to be talking no one's business. But I'm wondering, are there people that turn to drugs and alcohol? Are there people who turn to domestic violence or even attempted suicide, or do you know what I mean? Dark depression. That's the side of the stock market I don't feel anyone talks about when everyone's into taking these big risks. Like, I've heard so much stories online, like, yeah, I had 20 grand in savings, which I'd been saving for years, and I decided to put it all on Tesla, and now I'm a millionaire. But what if that had gone wrong?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And in relation to what you said in the confidentiality agreements that I have, means that, yeah, certain facts, I can't speak on, because when you are a mental health first aid and you are having sessions, we're not therapists, but we are good listeners. We signpost, people in the right direction to kind of help themselves. And we continue to guide them along the way until they're able to kind of stand on their own too in regards to that. So it's a lot of sessions in that regard. And of course, when you have these sessions and there is that confidentiality, you start getting a lot of heart-to-hearts, and people start to share things with you. So yeah, and you do see the domino effect of negative coping mechanisms, because when someone's in denial with themselves, if your partner exposes you, you feel naked in a sense, and that can cause domestic violence or inappropriate behavior. So that can most definitely play a part. Also, is the echo of lies as well. Some people are just living in a dream world which doesn't actually exist, just to kind of stay in denial. Infidelity is another one.
I didn't even think of that, but yeah.
Yeah, because they're running away from what their true issues are.
Yeah.
Infidelity is another one. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, a lot of these things do play a part, and things like that are most definitely shared. It's funny though, because well, the reason why I say it's funny is because of the comparison, not the actual dilemmas, of course. But the comparison is funny because a lot of these scenarios that I see in the corporate sector are probably tenfold in like on road, you know, but there's no person to go and speak to with that confidentiality and all of that. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, I mean, it's, you know, you got the stereotypical scenario where, you know, you got the girl who likes to tell her business to her friend, but her friend don't hold her business. You know, she shares it with others, you know.
Yeah.
And it's Chinese whispers and whatever else, and that doesn't help at all. Yeah, that's just another negative effect, because now you can't even deal with your issues yourself, you know, so that everybody knows your business.
Yeah, I can see that.
What's that song? Jacob Miller. You know what? Too much what you watch. Yeah, a lot of that. You know, and you know what that does? That causes paranoia, which just increases the depression. So you have to understand what these factors are. One thing that we do in mental health, right, is when I'm talking to people, I give them the bucket scenario, where things that are bothering them, we put in the bucket. And then we talk about how we drain that bucket. And we just even hit at the basics to begin with. Like, for an example, you know, what do? Do you have a drink? All right. How many drinks do you have? Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people drink away, you know, their stresses. Now, if I'm going to be real honest with you, that's the most common.
Yeah.
The whole issue, especially with young women.
Okay.
Especially with young women. I say young women, but it's mostly young white women that I talk to.
Right.
I would say, echoing what I mentioned earlier, you know, it's very reserved for men, particularly Black men, to talk about their mental health. But Black women are not far from it themselves either. Even if it was a case of signposting, to, like, for an example, you know, a Black woman might not want to talk to me about womanly things, but that's fine. That we don't have to go into that. I just want to know that you need to talk, you need help, and then I can signpost you in the direction of a mental first aider who's twice removed from you, but then a female, so can kind of speak, so that you can speak more comfortably to her about some of your issues. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe it's perhaps a race thing, because I guess with the white women, they already maybe they feel already twice removed from me, but they're very comfortable to speak with me in regards to things of the mental health nature. Whereas I see the Black women are not so forthcoming. I may well identify something and approach them, and then they'll be more forthcoming on that approach. But in regards to coming to me in the corporate sector, wanting to have a heart-to-heart, especially in the UK, not so much. I'm quite international, so there's people that I speak to in the New York office as well, and I think they're more forthcoming all round. So that would be white, Black, Latino, Oriental. You know, it's generally not so much of a race thing across the sea in regards to speaking with someone, you know, who has the expertise to talk to you about that. Whereas in the UK, I think there's a little bit more reluctance. So there's a lot of things for us to pick at in regards to, you know, stabbing through the stigma, the iron balloon of you know, running away from mental health and that sort of wellness, and considering that, you know, they don't. There's definitely a denial that, mental health can be managed for Black men as well, to a point where anytime Black men hear about mental health or anything of that kind, they think section and stuff like that straight away. Yeah. And there's so many different aspects to it. For an example, at the moment, we're talking about just basic negative coping mechanisms, and look how much we've gone into in regards to that. And this is just me purely sticking on, negative coping mechanisms, which we all have, some big, some small, but they're negative all the same. So going back to the bucket now, with the bucket, or the jug rather, it would have the spout. And then what a negative coping mechanism would do is squeeze at the spout, so you can't even pour out some of that stress.
Right.
Yeah? So if you can't pour out some of that stress, it starts coming on top, coming out the top. Yeah. So remember, the phrase "coming on top." That's what it is, because of that stress. You can't pour it out. Yeah. And that's because your negative coping mechanism is tightening up that spout. Yeah, for one way or another. For an example, if you're suffering depression, but then you're deciding to take hard drugs to not deal with that depression, you're not getting rid of the depression. You're just hiding it. Yeah, and that is what it is. Again, with the you got credit problems, and retail therapy is a way to kind of not think about that. Yeah, you're tightening up the spout again. And then there's other things that will loosen up the spout, basic things. Waking up early in the morning and going for a walk, meditation, exercise, taking time to yourself to think and reflect. These basic things, taking your dog out for a walk, very good one. You know what I mean? Because it gives you that sense of routine. So, especially for those people who are finding themselves stuck in a rut, which is quite big. Getting that sense of routine, those are a good one. And, it's no one set rule for anyone. Everyone is, you can custom it to what is beneficial to them and their lifestyle. But at least they're thinking about, upstairs and how to kind of manage their mental health in the same way they think about managing their physical health. Because if that jug comes on top and that depression starts to bubble out, that's when it can lead to more detrimental things, of all kinds. I don't want to scaremonger, but yeah, it can move the detrimental things of all kinds, really. And we'll kind of just leave it at that, in that sense of all the type of detrimental things. That's something that we can kind of speak about. But yeah, I mean, if just to phrase this one, I would say, all right, so you had a chat with Taylor Dapps and you spoke about negative coping mechanisms, because that's I want to have a good few conversations with you about this, and I'm trying to manage by using just clear bullet points and not really too much going into a lot of everything else, because I want to touch on every single thing with you, because I like your sessions, what you're doing, and I think having half an hour with me, Aaron, there will be not only beneficial to me and you and our forums, but it's my give back, where people are really talking about mental health, because we don't talk about it.
Mental health, no, we really don't, bruv. It makes people feel very vulnerable, bruv. And a saying, well, I believe I created it, but that I live by is, today's secrets are tomorrow's weapons, bruv, that will be used against you. Do you know what I mean? So no one don't want to volunteer their most vulnerable parts just to have it thrown back in their face in an argument, or, do you know what I mean? To be gossiped about, And these are
Element yard
things,
vibes.
yeah, these are things that I feel everyone struggles with, because there's always that bad stigma with whenever you hear the word mental health. I ain't got no mental health issues. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's on that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
When most people are battling something behind closed doors.
Yeah, we're still not enlightened enough to kind of take ownership on it, plural, like all of us. But we are, we're getting there.
Yeah.
There's still. I have to admit, we are getting there. But it's there's a lot that's kind of really happened in our community, and has society on a whole, they've only just kind of really started to tap into dealing with mental health in this way. So therefore, that the last people for this to kind of trickle to is going to be the Black community. And I've seen that myself. You know what I mean? Because me as a Black man who's in that forum, I realized that I'm not really dealing with particularly many Black people. Yeah. So, there's that for some food for thought. And I say that, but because I'm in this forum, the amount of, it's a double-edged sword, because I say on one coin that I don't deal with many Black people, but that's only because in a lot of these institutions there isn't many. But as time has grown, and I've opened up and kind of had these forums and these seminars, that I can speak to people, Black men are reaching out to me to have conversations. And it's really good, like, because what I would say is that these Black men then that are reaching out to me to have conversations, these are the Black men that I'm talking about, where you wouldn't know that they're going through anything. Do you know what I mean? And that's the whole point of it. Like, when you're dealing with mental health, you want to manage what issues you're having before they come on top, before that very same jug bubbles over. Everybody only knows about the bubble over and the sectioning and whatever else, and the extreme behavior and whatever else. What about before it bubbles over? What about when it's bubbling? Can't we do something about that? Can't we do something about releasing those negative coping mechanisms and implementing some positive coping mechanisms instead? So I kind of go through those bullet points as well with them. And, some great stuff comes about because of this. I live it and breathe it, man. I live it and breathe it because I like this particular type of work. Me and you coming up, you've always known me from the creative sector. And, me finding myself in this kind of form of work kind of echoes that, really. You've always known that as well as creative, I've been in the financial world anyway. That's been my bread for a very long time now, over a decade. You don't really get much dreadlocks in them sectors there. Do you know what I mean? So I'm really respected in that regard, because of, who I am. And so it's just a natural evolvement. Like, well, what is my give back with this? And so there you go. That's what it is. Because it'd be nice if we find, if all these people who are doing podcasts and whatever else now, if they just took the time to kind of just do one session regarding mental health in the community and how to improve wellness, that's a good start.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's nice to talk about all the hypey things that you're talking about. Yeah, that's cool, but move forward things.
We need balance.
That's all. I'm not knocking everyone. I love people still. Especially I try a thing, but don't fight down those who are trying to give you the gospel in a sense. When I say gospel, truth. I'm not lie to you. I'm just saying what it is. And if you can kind of twice remove your own self from your own denial, you'll see that, the reality is that, your sister might be actually going through something. Your brother could be going through something. It's a funny phrase that paid in full, Money Mitch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He said, people get shot every day, B. Remember when he said that?
Yeah, I remember.
Funny that in our community, that's how we mentally deal with things. But that will be my lead up to the next time when we talk. I want to just jump straight into PTSD, which I think is a good follow up for this.
Yeah.
I think we'll jump straight into PTSD. But in regards to negative coping mechanisms, do you have any lasting questions for me?
Yes, I do. It may be one for a separate conversation, but it's very fitting with this one. If someone had come to you, like I think this is a very typical scenario within the stock market world. They first started off only betting with, or I say betting, but investing with money they could afford to lose. Say they put in £100, they've turned that to 200. They've now made that 200, 500. Now they've got £1,000. That grand might be more than they've ever had, but most of that's profit, so they're still willing to use it. They may even have got that up to 10 grand. They put it on something that to them was a sure bet. Now they've lost it. Even though some of that or most of that was actually made of profit, you've just got loss in your head. Now, what would you say to that person? What is the thing that you should not be doing right now? Because I know a lot of people, they would just carry on trying to chase it, or they might start going down the road, which we've been talking about, you know what I mean? Start blowing money on foolishness, or they go home and start beating up their woman, or do you know what I mean? There's a lot of dark roads they could go down. But if someone had come to you in that situation, what would be some advice that you'd offer them?
Good question. Time is money. For one. Yeah. And the reason why I say time is money, right, is because you said that person built up a catalogue of funds based upon good moves in the market.
Yeah.
And then he's done one big move and he's lost all what he earned over those couple of years or whatever. That's where we're getting with this.
Yeah.
So that was your salary over those couple of years that you just burnt through.
So before you answer that, the reason I'm even asking this is because last year on the stock market, it was a bull market. And
I'm familiar with that.
A lot of people got false confidence because whatever you was putting your money in, you was getting a return, and you start to think, wow, I know what I'm doing. But really, that was just the state of the market. Now we're in a bear market. A lot of people have been, do you know what I mean? Their true colors have been revealed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very familiar, especially, in my arena, the bull and the bear markets. And yeah, you should be aware of these risks. You know that the market is subject to change. It's a variable situation, plural. The market is variable. None of this is fixed.
Yeah.
So, if you want a fixed situation, then you're going down more the high yield savings route or something like that. But in answer to your question was, if this guy who has accumulated funds over a period of time decides now to pose all of those funds for one big hit, he has taken the gamble, because he hasn't decided, okay, I'm going to keep a balance of things. And sometimes you do have to kind of make that jump sometimes. My only point is, right, and this is what I would emphasize, to someone pre, and then I'll jump into post, is that if you're going to go ahead and make that jump, you must be prepared for either direction you may well fall. You know, if you fall into glory, you have to be prepared for that. What are you going to do with all these riches? You know, yeah, you could think about that when it comes, but sometimes when you think about that when it comes, you muck it up. What are you going to do? Have your priority bullet points about what you're going to do. Because sometimes you have to think things into existence as well.
Definitely.
So if you really want to win this, what are you going to do when you get it? What are your bullet points there? What you can do, right? And then there's that one thing. So put that to one side. Now let's talk about what you're going to do if that doesn't work out, because you're taking a risk, right? So what are you going to do when that doesn't work out? So that's why it's a case of you're now, because you've accumulated those funds, you're now going to gamble more than you ever have before. I understand what you're saying when you're talking about, okay, well, these were funds that he's accumulated through profit over time, though. And time is money. So, it's these things that you kind of have to consider, because time is money, he's still going to feel that same loss. He's devoted himself to doing this to make money. There's been sometimes when he could have been doing other things, socially, family, whatever else, but he devoted himself to this. So when you say that, okay, it's all stimulating from profit, maybe that's not so much the case. Because you have to put in the time is money factor as well. I mean, we got, it's quite airy in regards to how much funds are we talking here? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, because if you are that, that's balance anyway. If you are, do you know what? I've been out all day and I haven't charged this phone. The battery is going to go with me. But let me see if I can wrap this up. So if you are balancing it, like you've got your life money and then you've got your, let's call it gamble money. Yeah. No, sorry, that's not right. Let's call it risk money. Yeah. Because this is what you're prepared to pose and take a risk and make profit. You know what I mean? But that doesn't interfere with your check-in money, the money for your ins and outs. You know what I mean? And bearing in mind that, so where was his balance? Because bearing in mind that he's made profit, he should be able to, within his profit money, work out the percentage that he's going to put back into risk. Do you know what I mean? Work out what you're going to put back into risk and what you're not putting back into risk. You draw away. You put that either into savings or into your checking money, but you're not going to just put all of it. You have to have that balance. It's nice saying that, oh yeah, but you have to take a risk. You're only saying that because those people that took a risk and was beneficial are those people that took a risk and was beneficial. That doesn't mean it's the rule for all.
Yeah.
It just means that brother got lucky doing it that way, and well done to him. You know what I mean? Because, he got his blessing. But that wouldn't be prudent advice to offer you to do, because what would be prudent is for you to know both sides. If that falls negative, away I go do. If it goes negative. So you just have to kind of bear all of that in mind and make sure that you kind of maintain a balance. And, the enforcement of these negative coping mechanisms is not a balance. Yeah, your negative coping mechanism might be, you want to let your hair down, stress, have a drink, have a smoke. Fair enough. But are you having a run as well? Are you going out in the mornings and getting some fresh air? Are you making sure that you don't just stay in your house all day and you're getting some vitamin D? These are all things that cause stress, like a vitamin D causes stress. People say, black people in general, people of the sun, even more so. when they're lacking vitamin D, it becomes even more so stressful for them. And I've read, some other things where people don't co-sign to that because, it falls into the eugenics realm or whatever else. So there's all of that. Either way there needs to be a balance, and that vitamin D is required regardless what color you are. Yeah, it's required. So keep your vitamin D up, keep light around you, don't waste a day, and I would say bottom line is balance. Don't be in denial, because that will be off balance. Everybody's got negative coping mechanisms, but how are you balancing it out? Do you know what I mean? Definitely. How are you balancing it out? Yeah. So, we'll touch some more on this still, but next time I want to kind of talk about PTSD.
Yeah. Let's do it. Fam.
Yeah.
This platform is open to you anytime, bruv. So it's got some free time. Let's do it.
Me get a key. All right.
Definitely.
That's it. Respect. Listen, it's late. I love y'all. You get me? My name's Taylor Daps, and I'm signing off.
Thanks for your time. Really appreciate this,
One love to you, man. Take it easy. Respect. Take care.
Brother. Bless.
All right. Yeah, man.